All right, let's get into it.
We got drinks and a cigar. I'm smoking a Victory right now. What are you smoking on?
I am finishing. What am I smoking? I'm finishing a 50 cal Garrison, and I get a Rosado Corona up next.
Nice.
So I was just going over a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, and just trying to get my Rolodex spinning again.
Yeah,
so we're gonna take it back.
We've had a couple people ask, like, why Warfighter Tobacco? Why would we call ourselves Warfighter? I think everybody that probably knows us or knows a little bit about us know that we've served in the Army, me and you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people probably know that we were in the same platoon for a while. We were in the same platoon your whole career.
Almost. The majority of it.
Yeah.
Because about halfway through the deployment, you went to sniper section. It was scouts.
Yeah.
Which is technically
it's
the
in
same battalion.
Same battalion, yeah.
But we weren't in the same platoon anymore.
Right.
We weren't working shoulder to shoulder. You were Overwatch and we were watching us.
Yeah. Well, because I served a little bit longer than you. So I was there a little bit before you and a little bit after you. So some of my memories, because of the lovely PBIs and stuff, I get my deployments mixed up. So sometimes I'll tell a story and John will be like, that was number 2.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I wasn't there for that. So that was 2.
Yeah. So, and then I had been in, so I went active duty in 98.
Yeah.
And
I went active in 2000.
Yeah. So I have a couple years before you got there where I did all my private time.
Oh yeah, I missed all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And then by the time you got there, I think I was an E4, just became an E5, maybe somewhere.
No, you're E4.
E4, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then once we got back from the deployment, I didn't even see when you left because you
were in scouts.
Yeah, I was doing other things. I was in Sodic probably.
Yeah, because I went on terminal leave, I think in July of 2004, and I think you were at Sodic at that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, let's back up. So why Warfighter Tobacco? So obviously we named it Warfighter because it's kind of just who we are. And we've never really deep dived into our like what we actually did in the service, right? We've hit the highlights, but we're like, we don't go around telling people like, oh, this and that all the time, right? But I think we've been asked enough now where I think we should probably tell a little bit of the story.
Yeah, we can talk about it like once.
Yeah, right?
Right now.
So,
no, I mean, like, we did a lot of cool shit. We were really busy.
Let's talk about leading up to the deployment because we were both in before 9/11.
Yeah, we were in a peacetime army.
And so that is a different animal.
Yeah, it is.
It's a different animal. We hadn't been to war.
We had this thing called a budget.
Yeah.
And it was 0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
because the last major conflict was 93. That was the Gulf War. And then there was like little stuff.
Yeah.
But like what the 101st, I think they did a thing in Bosnia before we got there.
They did a where the fuck was it? Some NATO mission shit.
Well, I think that was Bosnia.
I think there was another place too. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. But we didn't go on it.
Yeah, that was right before I got there. They had just got back from jungle training in Bosnia when I showed up.
Well, there was some NATO mission too that they did. Because like we had a couple, like Greg, for instance, he was one of the guys in our platoon, and he did some peacekeeping mission somewhere with the 101st before.
So 101st deployments just in about the 299. The 96, 97 time frame probably.
Yeah, I don't even know. I can't remember, but I know Bosnia was one of them, but we didn't make it on that.
Yeah.
And then, like there was other stuff in like peacetime stuff. Like right before I got to the unit, you guys all deployed, the whole unit before I was there, deployed to Montana to firefight
our
wildfires,
which was crazy because like we're in the 101st Airborne. We're an infantry battalion that's air assault. Like we're one of the top 3 people that are going to get called up, for stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And we we get orders and they're like, hey, our battalion's going to Montana to fight forest fires in like 3 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, we have this training and it's basic wildland firefighting course.
Yeah.
Right. Like I knew nothing about it at the time. Right.
Yeah.
And then it was so long after we did that till I got out. But the guys that got out right away.
I would have jumped all over that.
Yes.
Job. Oh
Because it was fun. It paid a lot, not for us because we were an infantry battalion deployed to this, but yeah. So we're training up on chainsaws. We're training up on setting
how to fell trees. And
do a fire break
Yep.
and how to light backfires and like that kind of stuff. So that was a really cool deployment. We didn't bring our uniforms. We didn't bring our weapons.
Yeah.
We got these fancy green pants and these bright yellow shirts and Pulaskis.
Yeah.
And that's what we deployed with. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like if I would have done that and it would have been one of those guys that was getting out shortly after, my new goal would be like, but my life goal is to be a smoke jumper.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just want to jump out of planes into the fire.
Yeah. we met those guys. They were cool as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was cool.
They're grunts. Your gun is now a chainsaw or a shovel or an axe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and I don't know how long we were there, maybe 2-3 months. We were there a while.
Yeah.
And eventually it snowed and put the fires out. Like I think we probably helped a little bit, but what ultimately put the fires out was snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We woke up one day, it snowed. There was like the different color smoke, like the fire just went out.
Right.
The smoke, and they're like, yep, pack your shit, boys. We're going home.
That's funny.
But yeah, then so before we deployed though, we're doing infantry stuff, right?
Let's talk about before 9/11.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, because between 9/11, because I was September 11, 2001.
Yeah.
Now we deployed February of 2003.
Yeah.
So there was time in between. So let's talk pre 9/11.
Pre 9/11.
Because it was way different.
Yeah.
Like the majority of my time in the military pre 9/11 was schools.
Yep.
And then I had a short stint.
So what kind of schools? What'd you go to?
I'll go right out the gate. So I went to basic. That was August to December of 2000. And then I got out of basic, went home on Christmas leave. Got back from Christmas leave. So it's now the beginning of 2001. And I had orders to go to airborne school, but my class date wasn't until I think the beginning of February. So I had like a month and some change of being a holdover, staying in the same bays that I was in for basic training.
Oh no!
And it was a nightmare. I mean, I wouldn't. Let me back up. It wasn't that much of a nightmare
At the time, you thought it was.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did because like the day-to-day shit is like you still have to wake up, you still have to do PT, except now you're fucking cleaning everything because you're getting the entire area ready for the next basic training class. Yeah. And you're just like a bitch. Mm-hmm. Whatever needs to get done, we need to move this, we need to fill sandbags, we need to repaint this.
So were you working for the drill sergeants at that time?
I was, but so the cool part was like they were just NCOs in the Army.
Yeah. They took the hat off.
No, they still had the hat on.
But I mean,
they did
mentally took the hat off
until something didn't get done or somebody fucked up.
Right.
And then it was like, oh yeah, we're still at basic training. We're not in basic training. Yeah.
But then he went from like a normal E6 to a fucking drill sergeant.
Yes, like that.
Yeah.
But the coolest part about the time that I was there in that holdover is one of the guys that was also in the holdover that was going to go to airborne school with me. His uncle, he was from Massachusetts also. Yeah. So immediately we're like, oh, we're like 30 minutes away from each other where we grew up. Like we're best friends now, because that's how the Army is.
Yeah.
You find one small thing in common and next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, I'm friends with this guy for life.
Yeah.
So we find out that we're both from the same area. Hung out same places, didn't really know any of the same people. Just Massachusetts, Boston population is pretty big.
Yeah.
But what I did find out is his uncle was one of the black hats in airborne school, one of the instructors. Different company that we ended up in. But so on Sundays, like Sunday was our down day. Like we could kind of just chill, do whatever we wanted. Saturday was still kind of like play fuck games,
Right.
whatever. But it was kind of relaxed. Sunday was just like we had to wake up. We did accountability, make sure everybody was still alive in there.
Yeah.
And then they were like, if you want to go to church services, go to church services. If you want to go to the gym, go to the gym. We're going to the PX at this time, you know, because it was kind of a far walk and they had a vehicle. So they were like, oh, fuck it. Like, we'll treat these people like humans and not non-human scum, you know? And so Sundays were really chill for us. And because his uncle was, I think he was like an E7 or an E8. I think he was an E8.
Yeah.
At airborne school. And so I think it was the second weekend we were there. The first one, my buddy went with his uncle.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's whatever.
Yeah.
And then after that second week of us hanging out 24/7, he's like, hey man, like I'd probably get you to come sneak away. You know, we can go do whatever. Like he's going to drive us around. If we need to go off post, we can. If we, go see whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Cool. So that second weekend, his uncle came and picked me up and him.
Yeah.
And took us, like, we went and saw, because I'd never seen airborne school besides like,
right,
you know, being by the PX and seeing the towers. So we got like a whole tour of it and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, I fucking can't wait. You know, I was super motivated. Mm-hmm. And so we leave there and he's like, you guys want some beers? And we're both underage.
Yeah.
Like underage as fuck. I'm 18.
Yeah.
And so obviously I'm like, sure. You know what I mean? So he goes to the Class 6. He buys a 30 pack. Right now, I'm 18.
Yeah.
I haven't drank because I was in basic.
3 months, yeah.
You know, and when I was home, like I might have drank a couple times, but I'm 18, so it's not like I go to the bar and hang out every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he gets us a 30 pack and he's got this little tiny, like a Suzu Trooper SUV thing and throws us in the backseat with his 30 pack and starts driving around the back 40 at Fort Benning. And he's like, drink. And we're like, okay. So we start cracking beers and we're drinking. And he's like, I want that 30 pack kill by the time I drop you guys back off. And we're just like, fuck, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Looking back on it, your uncle's a dick.
Well, I didn't know anything. Right. I'm like, this is the fucking cool. Like, I can't wait to get to airborne school. Like, this is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? We got music playing. He's telling us about all the ranges, all the different shit. And, you know, all we saw from basic is where we walked and ruck marched to. And so I was just like, this, like, Fort Benning's huge. This place is awesome and all this history and blah, blah, blah. And we get fucking hammered. We kill that 30 pack. And so at this time, it's probably like 7, 8 o'clock at night. Yeah. And it's like dark out. And so he's like, oh, I'm going to bring you guys back. So he pulls back up into Sand Hill and back up to where, our basic. And I was in Alpha 150 for basic. So we were like on the corner of all the, building areas of Sand Hill. And so he pulls, like, normally you just pull in the parking lot, you drop us off, we walk in because it's all, the ground floor is wide open. It's like a breezeway essentially. And that's where we formed up in formations. And all the barracks were, second, third, I think it's second, third floors. Yeah. And, but during basic training, the drill sergeants will drive vehicles into that area. Yeah. So we can stage stuff or load or unload or do whatever. So this motherfucker pulls up into the parking lot and he's like, what company you guys in? And my buddy's like, oh, we're Elf Company. And he's like, okay. And he pulls right underneath that fucking breezeway and he just lays on the horn. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And he's like, get out. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, get the fuck out of my car. And I'm like, what? And he's just laying on the horn. And so now the fucking lights are starting to turn on. The drill sergeant's coming out. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so fucked right now. Yeah. And the drill sergeants come out. And obviously, like, we're 15 beers apiece. So, like, I can't even stand up.
So he's being an E8, has probably called the drill sergeant.
Oh, yeah. This is all pre-planned.
Yeah. They already know what the fuck's
100%, right? So the drill sergeants come out and, like, we're like deer in the headlights. Like, oh my God, our life's over. And they smoked us for like 4 hours. And we're puking everywhere, right? And, I mean, I was one of those like overly highly motivated people. Like, this is so fun. I can't wait. What's next? Like, okay, do push-ups. Fine. I've been doing push-ups all day, every day for the past fucking 5 months. Like, let's go. And so, like, it wasn't like, oh my God, this sucks. My life's over, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I'll play the game. Yeah. But I'm drunk. So whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's a much better game to play when you're hammered.
Oh yeah. And so obviously Monday morning PT sucked. I was hungover as shit. 4 hours getting smoked the night before. And so that next weekend, same fucking thing. But I expected it this time.
Right.
So I'm just like, here we go. And that happened that happened for the next 3 weeks until we got to airborne school. And then airborne school was just a shit show.
Yeah.
Got to airborne school and it was just like, oh, this is it? Like, this is kind of a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I got to run around at like a 10-minute-mile pace. Like, it starts my knees, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and okay, so airborne school.
Yeah.
Like,
so airborne school is 3 weeks long.
but looking back on it, you think it's probably a joke, right? At the time, you're like, okay, it is what it is, right?
I mean, it was fun. The most intimidating thing about airborne school was actually jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
Like that.
But so like you guys have done the round canopy thing. And
oh, yeah.
pretty much
So 3 weeks.
You've told me that you could be taught all of that.
3 weeks of airborne school in the Army is the equivalent of 3 days at round canopy parachute team.
Yeah.
They took out the bullshit running. They took out the bullshit PT. All the other stuff, like you're drastically more comfortable in airborne school based on the amount of shit they make you do.
Yeah.
Like you learn how to fall down for 3 weeks and you fall down from the ground, you fall down from a tower and you fall down from an airplane, Yeah. And so over the course of those 3 weeks, like you kind of beat your body up a little bit just because you're learning how to fall properly.
Well, you're probably doing other stuff like inspections and
not so much. A lot of it is like they have all these different apparatuses that they use to train. Like they have this swing landing trainer. And they have like all these different size boxes that you essentially jump off and do a PLF, a parachute landing fall. They have mock aircraft, so you learn how to do exits, but you also learn how to do like in-aircraft, operations.
Oh, yeah.
All the commands, how to stand up, how to move when everyone's packed in, different types of aircraft. Then they have Tower Week, which they essentially hook you in a harness with a chute, and you get hooked to a basket, and the chute's kind of already open. And they pull you up to the top of a 250-foot tower, and then they release you, and you fall from 250 feet under your chute, and then you land. So you're kind of getting the feeling of like, oh, this is what it's going to be like when I'm actually under canopy after coming out of an aircraft. And so that's a whole week, right? I did the tower twice in a week.
Really?
And because it's such a big operation, you have 30 guys in support of getting that one
tower
guy.
has what, four positions?
I think
and there's 2
3
towers?
or 4, but they can only use certain ones depending on wind.
Yeah, because you don't want to blow back.
One of them is always broke. So, and it's a process. It probably takes 10 minutes to get somebody up and down, from start to finish. And that's if it's efficient. It's usually longer. So that's why it takes so long. And the rest of it is just bullshit. You're running around, you're fucking PLFs and all the, random bullshit. But yeah, it can definitely be condensed to like 3 days.
Yeah.
But so then I went to airborne school, got out of airborne school and was in holdover there for about a week until the next class day started. And they didn't have any room for us. And then they kicked me down to 75th Ranger Regiment for RIP. Well, it used to be called RIP. Now it's called RASP. That's
and you had
how old it was.
A Ranger contract?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And so my pipeline was supposed to be basic airborne RIP, get into Ranger Battalion, do whatever I do from there, go to Ranger School, and then who fucking knows?
Yeah.
So I get to RIP, and that was in March. And in the end of August, I still didn't have a class date for RIP because they were handing out these contracts left and right. And so it was just holdover and holdover and holdover.
And that was pre-war.
Yeah, that was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
So they were just like, cool. Like while I was in holdover at RIP, we built a 75th Ranger Regiment memorial, for lack of better words. It was this giant walkway to go into the headquarters that had all the commanders and sergeant majors' names, all the different operations they did over the years, all this shit. And we made it out of wood. And like every single letter we had to cut out by hand.
Yeah.
Sand, prime, and paint. So they had a whole full wood shop. So I learned how to do a lot of cool shit like that.
Yeah.
But on top of doing that, like I ran that land nav course fucking, I don't know, 24 times.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I could just run around and get all my points And then I'd find this deep, nasty, fucking thick brush shit, and I'd climb underneath that, and I'd set my alarm on my watch and tuck it into my hat and go to sleep for an hour or two. I'd wake up and I'd run 20 fucking, whatever, 100 yards to our endpoint and go from there. So spent a lot of time playing games with that, and then finally I was just like, I just send me to a unit. Like, let me get my career on the road, because essentially it was like the next class day came up, and it was me and like probably 7 or 8 guys that were still there that weren't on that class roster.
Oh, fuck.
And
because what does a class start every couple months probably?
So it was 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks. Yeah. Well, it was, and they have, depending on the time, like some will do like 3 weeks and then it'll start the next week. Some will do 3 weeks and a week off, and then it starts. It just depends on what their rotation's looking like. So yeah, I finally was just like, you know what, fuck, just send me somewhere. I don't even care at this point. But I'm tired of sitting here playing fucking stupid games. Yeah. So then I got orders to Fort Campbell. And that was in August 2001. And so got up to Campbell, went through replacement the whole 9, got sent to 3rd Battalion 327 Infantry, Bravo Company 2nd Platoon.
Did you even do a training cycle before 9/11 then?
So I did. So immediately, not even 2 weeks after I got to the unit, we immediately went to JRTC.
Oh, okay. But you never hit back 40 or anything?
Not until after JRTC.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then we go to JRTC, Joint Readiness Training Center, Fort Polk, Louisiana. There's a 30-day rotation down there. That's when you lost your E-tool.
Yeah, that was my single worst day in the Army, was at that deployment.
Yeah. That's where I learned that they have a weather machine at Fort Polk, Louisiana that controls just the weather in the back 40 there.
Yeah.
Not anywhere else. Like, it's just where the units go out to do their couple-week training.
We were there for 2 weeks?
In the box, 2 weeks. Yeah.
And I think we saw sun maybe 2 days.
Maybe 2 days.
Otherwise, it was a fucking down.
It was a monsoon.
A monsoon for 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah, JRTC, that one sucked.
Yeah, JRTC was that was like my.
So I was a 240 gunner in JRTC. What were you?
I was just a rifleman.
Okay,
that was it.
So
I just got to the unit and they were just like, oh no, fuck. I was a saw gunner.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I had to work my way to just get an M4. They gave me the 249.
All the new guys get the
249. Yeah. Because I just remember.
Because I'm pretty sure you took my spot.
I did. I took over your gun.
Yeah. Because I was a 240 gunner for a couple years.
Because I was Bravo team gunner.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so I was a saw gunner there, and then. I get moved off the saw. They gave me a 203. And then I got moved to weapons squad. They gave me a 240 Bravo. And then when I became weapons squad team leader, I got no. Yeah, when I became weapons squad team leader, I said M4. And then after that, I got kicked into 3rd squad as a team leader, just rifle team leader, and they gave me a 203.
Yeah. Usually the team leaders had
203. Yeah.
So, but before we started all this, it was schools.
So, yeah.
So you did.
Yeah. So I did airborne. Then they sent me for RIP. Ended up getting to Fort Campbell. I got to Campbell. Went to JRTC. Got back from that. I think they immediately sent me to air assault school.
Yeah. That happens as soon as you get there.
Yeah.
Like usually you do that before you get to your unit. Like you get to the reception. Oh no, I was at my unit.
Yeah.
For a week.
Yep.
1 week and then in air assault school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kicked me over to air assault school, which was what I learned from air assault school, is it doesn't matter about anything else except for your layout inspection.
And knots.
Yeah. I mean, I was decent at knots, so that didn't really.
Yeah.
And then all the like sling loading shit that we had to do, I actually thought that was really cool. So
yeah,
like it wasn't like, oh fuck.
I had to study.
Like, you had to study because
I had to spend the night like looking through the book and like getting ready.
How many wraps of 90-mile-an-hour tape go on this?
Yeah.
How much?
50 so for people who don't know, a sling load is we were in the 101st Airborne, so we had helicopters and we were air mobile.
Yeah.
Right. So we would you would sling load the 105 howitzer underneath
Humvees, LMTV,
Humvees,
anything, water fuel.
Yeah, all of that.
Yep.
So in air assault school, you have to do the fuel blivets.
Yep.
You have to do a net, just like a cargo net, and then you have to do
Humvee.
And so like for the Humvee, like there's mounting points, but you have to figure out how to like do the chains, how to tie the chains.
Yep.
You have to have like 100-mile-an-hour tape, which is duct tape that's green.
Yep.
You have to have that on all the glass. So if the glass breaks, it
doesn't just shatter everywhere.
Yeah. So like the lights, the windows.
Yep. But then you also have to have wraps on your actual slings. So
Yep.
that way when the helicopter starts to gain elevation, everything raises, doesn't get caught. It all breaks apart at the certain times and all that kind of shit. So
there's not a knot when it's going up. Because if there's a knot and your helicopter's lifting and then it like, it the front end of the Humvees
could
up
be
in
no
the
bueno.
air. Yeah. But so that was pretty interesting. And then you do an air assault school, you have to do like you have to hook up to a Chinook. You have to hook the Humvee up to a Chinook. And so that's interesting. So you have to ground. You have to have a ground so you don't get the blades cause like static electricity, but times a million. Like it could kill you.
It could.
Static electricity. So you have to have a ground. And then but when you're running up, so the helicopter's hovering above the whatever load it is.
Yeah.
And you have to run up to it. But a Chinook
fighting the rotor wash.
A Chinook has a lot of rotor wash. So it feels like you're running in like quarter speed. Like you're giving it your all, and it's like quarter speed.
It is 4 times the effort. 4 times the effort.
Yeah. And then you hook up, and then once you're hooked up, you jump off the Humvee because you have to crawl up on top of it, hook it up. You jump off the Humvee, and then you have to run away.
You have to clear the rotors before they can actually lift.
Yeah. And so as you're running away from the rotor wash, it's like it's times 16. Like your big old strides and you're hauling ass.
My favorite, especially on the, because like, if I remember right, we did stuff, we slung stuff on Blackhawks first. And then the Chinook came in at the end.
I don't remember ever doing a Blackhawk.
Yeah. And then when the Chinook came in, the difference in that rotor wash fucked people up because everybody had to do it.
Yeah.
And so you had to run away from this helicopter at some point.
Yeah.
And watching the amount of people that rotor wash would just face plant and slide, scorpion slide, you know what I mean, as they're running away because, it was so much fun.
Yeah. Pick your knees up.
And then the other cool thing that you did in air assault school is you actually rappelled out of a helicopter. And that was really cool because once again, that rotor wash changes a lot because you're rappelling off stationary towers the whole time. Like
not only are you rappelling, you're rappelling with a rucksack on.
Yeah.
And your weapon.
Yep.
All your shit.
But that rotor wash, you're supposed to use your brake hand and actually stop. And I remember I came in with like a hard brake and I just kept sliding down the rope, like slower, but it wasn't like a stop. And I was just like, nope.
My hand is going to be on fire.
Yeah.
Right now, so you wear gloves.
Well, that was cool. You learn how to fast rope. You learn all the helicopter shit, how to configure helicopters, what it can hold. And
air assault school is it's not the easiest class I've taken. Like you had to do a 12-mile road march.
Yeah.
You had to do the obstacle course.
Yep.
You had to do a PT test.
Yep.
So they're like, it's, it was kind of a thing. Right.
Yeah.
But it was fun. What other schools you hit?
And then I did a lot of like battalion or brigade level schools. Combat Lifesaver. I did a team leader course. What else? Machine gunner,
240 gunner course.
Yeah, the 240 gunner course.
Did you go to actually like the division school?
No, that was brigade level.
I did a division school.
I wanted that one, but we couldn't. Yeah. And then the rest of it was a lot of like hip pocket train the trainer type shit. Yeah. But that was kind of it. I don't know for major.
So for some reason,
other ones,
probably because I'm lazy. I don't know. But I didn't want to do Ranger School.
Yeah.
So in the 101st, if you want to get your E5, the fast track is Ranger School.
So I don't.
So what I did is every time Ranger School, like I would, like, hey, when are the next Ranger School dates?
Yeah.
Right. And I would make sure I had another school. So I had 240 Bravo Gunner course, the division level.
Yeah.
I had Combat Commo.
Okay.
Combat Lifesaver.
Yeah. I think I did do the Combat Commo too.
Yeah, that was a good one. I learned a lot because radios are shitload. I mean, because you knew nothing about them.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so combat combo was a good course. Javelin gunner course, javelin instructor course. God, what else did I do? But the division 240 gunner course.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about it was you did that. You actually got to shoot the aerial.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So your spotter is holding the bipods and you get to shoot.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I learned a lot on that one. That was a really good course. And then after that, sniper school. I went to a lot of different sniper schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember if I went to any other schools. I got out of PLDC because
I got out of PLDC too. Yeah. I got out of PLDC because I got my E5 when we were deployed.
Yeah.
And then when we got back, they were trying to send me. And I was like, I'm not re-enlisting.
Yeah. Because you were like, what, a couple months?
We got back, I think, in end of January. And I went on terminal leave in July. So I had like 6 months. And so I told him, I was like, I'll extend for a year. I was like, the only way I'll go to PLDC is I'll extend for a year. You send me to PLDC. And then I immediately go to the E6 board. I was like, I have enough time in service, I have enough time in grade, and I have enough points. And then I'll get out a year later as an E6.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like, you can sign up for 4. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Oh, I forgot too, before I got out, before our first deployment, I reclassed and was going to go aviation.
Oh, yeah.
Because my whole plan was to drop a warrant officer packet and fly helicopters. And so I did aerial gunnery.
Yeah.
I did like some maintenance courses and stuff like that. I forgot about that whole part.
Yeah.
But
it's funny. You were talking about Ranger School and you didn't want to go. So you always had another school.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Ranger School.
Yeah.
And every time I probably went to like either brigade or I went to division pre-ranger, I think 4 times.
Really?
So I went right after air assault school and all that kind of shit. You remember we did the squad competition stuff?
Yeah.
Right after that, I did a pre-ranger.
Right.
And I passed that. I was waiting for a class date and we went to West Point.
Yeah.
And so that got fucking, sorry, And then we got back from that and I went to pre-ranger. I take it back. Went to pre-ranger 3 times. I went to pre-ranger again. Past that.
Why would you have to go to pre-ranger more than once?
Because it was division level. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, from this pre-ranger, we're sending these people.
Yeah.
And so I went to pre-ranger again, past that, and then we got deployment orders. And it was funny because one of our other guys, Romero, was in Ranger School when we got deployment orders, and he was just like, deuces, y'all. I'm deploying with my unit. And he fucking quit so he could deploy with us. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I remember we were in the back 40 and he showed up in a Humvee one day and all of us were like, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm not missing this fucking deployment.
Yeah. It's probably a good decision on his part. Yeah.
And then I did a pre-ranger in Iraq.
Yeah.
Yep. And when I found out that if I passed that pre-ranger, then they would send me back home from Iraq to go to Ranger School.
Oh, I remember that.
And I was on the ruck march back in from like our whatever mission shit that we were running. And we stopped, just for whatever. And I was like, hey, I'm a heat cat. And they're like, what? And like, yeah, I'm a heat cat. I need an IV. They're like, if we stick you, you don't pass. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a heat cat. I'm like, I'm not fucking leaving my guys to go to fucking Ranger School. Yeah. Like, we still have time left.
That was OIF 1.
Yeah, but we still had like 3 or 4 months left on the deployment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Like, I looked at my team and I'm like, nobody's gonna step up and fucking do this. Like, stop.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So those are like some of our schools and shit that we did, right? So leading up to like before 9/11, we would go to the back 40 often. Like, I was there for 3 or 4 years before we got deployed to Iraq, right? And we were always training. It was always nonstop. Like, it was like cycles, right? You had 1 month of training. You had 1 month where you're on call, and essentially,
they call it DRF, Division Reaction Force.
Yeah,
you had 1, 2, or 3.
Yep. And then on the other cycle, you were on details, where it was like I did funeral details or Guys did, I don't know, like
we had gate guard,
post cleanup, like bullshit details, right?
Yep.
But every third month, we would spend at least 25 days of that month out in the field
yep.
training. Yeah. And you know, we would do some cool stuff. Like we would do enter and clear a trench, right? Because it's one of the
that was one of my favorite live fires.
Yes. It is. That's such a fun. It was
just chaos.
Controlled
chaos.
Yeah.
But it's chaos.
But there's like, you know, like there's shift fire signals.
Yeah.
There's, you know, there's Bangalore torpedoes going on, which are fucking awesome. You know, like you're shooting live rounds at fucking it was fun.
Yeah.
We did a lot of cool stuff. We did a lot of air assaults. Like we'd fly around Fort Campbell. So you'd do like the false insertions where certain
all the dart missions, downed aircraft recovery teams.
Yeah,
we did all that shit.
All that kind of stuff. It was really fun training. I got to go do like Op4 for 5th group quite a few times. That was fun. You know, stuff like that. But like when we're doing the live fires, we had ammo. But when we're doing the
crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
So we had to run. We had to go through the woods and we'd yell bang.
Yep.
And then we went through the woods with blanks.
Sometimes.
I was getting to that. And then we went through with actual live ammo.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. One of my favorite live fire ones that I ever did was taking down a bunker.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Because you're throwing an actual grenade.
And you're doing, you know, we had select fire M4, so we had 3-round bursts, not full auto. And so one of the main things they were looking for when you actually cleared the bunker, because you prepped it, you laid up fire, you flanked it, came around from the side.
One guy would crawl up to the bunker,
toss a fucking grenade in it. It would go off, and then both guys would come out and mag dump into it. And they were looking for violence of action.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was me. I can't remember who the fuck it was that were actually clearing the bunker. And that grenade popped, and we both came around and just fucking, I mean, from me to you away, shooting into this bunker, you know, and we're just mag dumping.
Yeah.
And there was shit coming out of it, hitting us back. And I was just
fuck, when a grenade goes off in that bunker, like if all the dust comes out of all the ground shakes. Like grenades are no fucking joke. Yeah. Like, but yeah, and usually when we were doing that, like the bunker clearing, right?
Yep.
Then you would do a live fire, like Dragon fucking missile or TOW or AT4 or something, right? You know, so we, you know, then we did a lot of night fires because you know we had nods. Shit ton of night fires, right?
Oh my god!
So you do a day enter and clear a trench, and then you do a night enter and clear a trench, right? And so you got laser beams everywhere.
That's the coolest thing.
You got the star clusters that are shift fire signals. Yep. You got the parachute flares, and when they go off, you got to get down.
Yep.
You know, like, it was cool. It was really cool. I was a 203 gunner, I think, for a couple of those. And so a 203 is a very effective weapon.
It is.
But in training.
So 203 is a single shot 40 millimeter grenade launcher.
Yeah.
That's on the bottom of your M4.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so a very effective weapon in combat, but in training, there's no blank rounds. There's no miles gear. There's no.
There really is.
There isn't, right?
You get chalk and you get smoke, but you can't shoot them at anyone.
So I'm on one of these training missions, and we're watching an intersection, and the truck that we're gonna ambush got there before we got there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fuck this. I'm a 203 gunner.
Yeah.
So I put in a parachute flare and I shot it, and it popped open right above them, and like I'm talking 20 feet above their heads. It popped, and the parachute went down, and
like they're all dead.
Yeah. So I'm looking. And they're pissed off because I'm shooting live rounds at them. You know? I'm like, it was a fucking parachute flare.
Adapt, improvise, overcome. God damn it.
Yeah. I'm looking at our RO. And I'm like, they're all dead. He's like, yeah, they're all dead. Sweet. You know, and then like stupid shit in training that was so much fun. Like we were doing, because in training you can get a little crazy with shit because nobody's gonna get fucking killed, right?
I remember when we were at JRTC. Speaking of stupid shit. Go ahead.
All right. So one time in training, I'm on a 3rd floor building, and we're taking fire from the next building over. There's a little Mount City, like a military operations urban train. So they create this little fake cities, right? And I remember I tossed one of our training grenades from our 3rd story window into a 2nd story window that we were getting shot from. And like it wasn't like they were right next to each other. It was like,
you get across the street.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and I fucking hit the window. I'm like, fuck yeah, you know, like you're so happy about this shit. You know, just little stuff like that that you probably wouldn't do in combat.
I mean, you try it.
Maybe.
Why not? If you thought about doing it in training.
because in training, there was people flanking the building. If I would have missed the window,
that's true.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, we were in JRTC, and it was like one of the last day or two. It was when the tank battalion was coming to take over our unit.
Yeah.
And we're just a bunch of infantry guys. And they took all of our anti-tank weaponry, all of our AT-4s and everything, and they brought it to the complete other side where the tanks came in from. And so all we had were rifles shooting at tanks. That's not how this works. So we're making one with the earth to try to hide from, you know, the ROs with their god guns, because they're just walking around killing everyone because the tanks are rolling through.
Because tanks don't have blank rounds either.
No. And so they just come through and then they're like, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you know. And so we're all hiding. And so I'm in a foxhole and I got a perfect view of all of this going on. And Lieutenant G, who I think went on to be Delta, he was one of the lieutenants in our battalion. He chased down a tank, climbed up on the back of it, opened the turret, and essentially was like, you're all fucking dead. And the RO was like, you can't do that. Sir, you're dead. That tank is still alive.
I remember that.
And he was fucking heated. And I was just like,
no. And once everybody else saw it, we were all heated.
Yeah, everybody was mad at that point. This. And at that point, like, we're like, I don't care what Lieutenant G is doing.
Yeah.
I will follow that motherfucker anywhere. Like, let's go.
Sometimes the ROs are like, I don't know. That was bullshit.
Like, I understand okay, it's an unsafe act in training, right?
But it's Medal of Honor shit.
But in real life, like he just saved a fuckload of people.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. So yeah. And okay, so we kind of talked about this podcast might go a little long. We might have to 2-part this thing. I don't know. But so then 9/11 happens.
Yep.
Right. And in between the time, so 9/11 happened, and then the whole world went crazy. If you were on a military base anytime around 9/11, it got locked the fuck down.
We were patrolling neighborhoods of mounted 50 cals and triple concertina wire around parking lots with roving patrols inside the base that is guarded and has a fence around the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, it was crazy. Crazy.
They just had no idea. They're just like, everything now.
Well,
like, okay.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was literally inside of 6 hours. It was everything now.
Yeah.
And you know, so that I think that took a fucking month or two to calm down.
Yeah.
And then we got sent to West Point to train cadets over the summer of
2002.
2002. Yeah. And that was a kind of a fun deployment too. But then when did we deploy? 2003, we deployed to Iraq. We were all butthurt.
So
we were all butthurt. We didn't get to go to Afghanistan.
We were, but it worked out.
Yeah.
Quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
How long were y'all in that like heightened security setting?
My memory's shit, but it was forever.
It had to be. It was probably
3 months.
Yeah, probably 2-3 months of like just stupidness.
Yeah.
And then it was just like okay.
After the first week, it was like, okay, go. You know, like we're guarding the MPs, guarding the gate.
I think what happened is 9/11 happened. Everything on base got stupid. They deployed 5th Group to Afghanistan
and Rocketsons
and one battalion,
one brigade.
Yeah. From Rocketsons. And I think what happened is they were in Afghanistan for like a month before the 101st was like, okay, we can kind of chill out what we're doing here now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was stupid for a minute.
Yeah, and then the training cycles picked up.
Oh, and then there was budget. Yeah, you have more money than Oprah.
Yeah.
Like go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to the range today? Cool. You have an extra 100,000 rounds and you can't leave till they're all shot.
Well, not only that, but like, oh, here's these new ACOGs. Here's these new.
Oh yeah.
You know, everybody gets PVS 14s.
Yeah.
Everybody gets, you know, the PQs. You know, like all the latest and greatest stuff. It just flooded us.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was new equipment all the time, which was cool. Because we needed it. Like before that, like our equipment was kind of dated.
Oh, it's shit from the fucking 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2003, I don't remember how long it was from the time we knew we were going to the time we went.
It wasn't long. And the reason why I say it wasn't long, it was only like 2 or 3 weeks maybe.
Because we had to do all the railroad shit.
Yeah, but it was like they told us and it was fucking game on.
Yeah.
But I think it was like 2-3 weeks because it started once everyone got back from Christmas leave, because we deployed, I think the beginning of February, like this February 1st, 2nd, something like that.
Okay.
And so all through January was just getting shit ready, loading Connexes, loading the railhead, getting all the equipment, closing up fucking barracks, taking care of all the personal shit.
Yeah. And like that, it was a pretty well-oiled machine. For not
doing it,
for not
Jesus Christ.
You don't practice that shit.
And there was no hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
It was like fucking go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nonstop.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got everything all buttoned up. Like I remember when after we cleared all the barracks out, we drew weapons out of the arms room. Everybody loaded blanks and blank adapters, and we cleared the fucking barracks for like days.
My brother was down visiting me. Remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So my brother got to see us clearing the barracks and stuff before.
Well, I remember. So right before we left, this must have been within probably 4 or 5 days of us actually getting on the plane. When we were going over making all of our sensitive item lists, drawing weapons, make sure everything's, what it needs to be and everything like that. That's when we realized that our machine gunners weren't getting issued sidearms, M9s.
Yeah.
They were all going to command or
we didn't have enough
officers. No, we had enough, but our old battalion commander decided to give them to his drivers and other officers and all these other random people that don't need them and took them away from our gunners for sidearm.
Yeah. So if like for the people listening, a 240 gunner, a 240 is what, 27.6.
Yeah.
And it's huge, right? It's not ideal for like immediate self-defense.
And especially if you have it set up on a tripod, you don't have time to unhook it and turn it around to shoot somebody coming up behind you. That's why you have a sidearm.
Yeah. And then carrying an M4 and an M240.
No.
It's a little bit hard to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so you guys were a little butthurt about that for sure.
Well, so I called my stepfather and I was like, "Hey, this is what's going on. I need a Beretta 92 FS."
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Okay." And he called me back a couple hours later and he goes, "Well, I fly in at this time and my uncle's picking you up or picking me up because his brother lived in Chattanooga. Picked him up from Nashville, drove to Fort Campbell. I can't remember. I think they just got a pass to get on base.
Yeah.
And he brought a personal owned firearm on base, handed it to me in the parking lot. And I disassembled it and I split it up between me and Ackerman and all of our shit and took it overseas. So he had a sidearm.
Yeah.
and then come to realize, like, I don't know, half the guys in the platoon did the same fucking thing.
Well, no. So half the guys in the platoon brought their own handguns.
Yeah.
One, you can't bring your own weapon to war. You're not supposed to.
No, not
it's
at
a
all.
big no-no. John was one of the only smart ones that brought the civilian equivalent to the military issue one. There was other guys that had like
a chromed out 40 Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
And it's like
stupid.
Bro, where are you getting ammo?
Yeah.
Like at least mine's 9 mil.
Yeah. So you kind of hid yours in plain sight once you were there.
And then the cool part is like once the gunners got their M9s back, I wore mine on my side.
Yeah.
And nobody said a fucking word about it.
No, because it was an Army issued gun.
It looked like it unless they pulled a serial number.
You had the newest looking one ever because all the Army.
I beat it so it looked like the rest of them. Yeah.
Because they were all the Army issued ones were stainless. They weren't actually stainless, but they were all the finishes wore off of them. So.
And then the funny thing is, like, I didn't know about guns then, which was weird.
Yeah.
Like my knowledge now versus then, like I didn't know shit, but I knew that was the equivalent and I knew I could get away with it a lot easier.
See, I just went to the local Iraqi gun store when we first got there and I purchased one.
You did. Do you remember how much you bought that for?
It was the equivalent of about $250 US dollars, but I paid in dinar that I happened to come across at some point.
Acquired.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was part 1 of our 2-part episode. We went a little bit long on this one. Kind of got lost going down memory lane. So stay tuned next week. Part 2 is going to come out. And go grab a cigar and hang out. And next week, grab another cigar and hang out. And the next week, grab another cigar and hang out. And the next week, grab another cigar and hang out. And then maybe we'll finish the story. But till then, we'll see you next week. Thanks.